Welcome to the Peak of Possibility podcast, brought to you by Peak Path Health. If you're enjoying the show, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember, if you or someone you care about is facing challenges, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to support you on your journey to health and wellness. Okay, Jackie, welcome to the Peak of Possibility podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, do you want to introduce yourself, tell people your name, who you are?
Yeah, my name's Jack Doherty. I am a man in recovery. I'm a dad, I'm a husband. June 6, 2017 is my clean date. I'm a member of a fellowship, 12-step program. I mean, that's the gist of it. Done a lot of therapy.
Same.
Yeah.
Well, you're a fellow masshole.
I am.
For those of you that don't know, masshole is a person from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
We can only say that. You can only say that if you're from
Yeah.
Mass, though.
Yeah. I like that.
So, just being someone from the East Coast, I know my addiction really started when I was super young, and I grew up in also a small New England town, similar to you, not in the city, and I just saw a statistic. Don't quote me on this, by the way, but there was a girl who I grew up with in high school who overdosed when we were about 18. And her mom started a really great nonprofit called Alyssa's Place in Massachusetts. Okay. And their page just posted something yesterday. In our small town, it's about 30,000 people. And there were over 1,500 overdoses just in 2024 that resulted in death. And in that small town, I know these little small New England towns were riddled and riddled with opiate addiction and crack addiction, but opiates really threw everyone through a loop. And it really started with a lot of people that I grew up with and in New England with the OxyContin 80s and the pain clinics, and everybody was bringing them down from Florida. How did your journey start into kind of drug addiction? Specifically with drug addiction, or just the behaviors, the addictive behaviors? I think my stuff started real early on with, it's going to probably sound weird, but my stuff started with incest. Mm-hmm. Some stuff went on in my family when I was very young. I think it started when I was 4. And at that age, I just knew that my family loves me. They don't want anything bad to happen to me. What's going on feels good, even though it was same-sex stuff. And I think my behaviors started then because I was chasing things that felt good, regardless of consequence, regardless of what others would think if they knew about it. I didn't seek it out, but I kept participating in it. And that started at age 4?
Yeah.
So at age 4, you start to experience this abuse in your household.
Yeah.
And at 4 years old, you don't really have the capacity to understand right from wrong, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. Do you remember what was going through your head at that time? And then furthermore, as the years went on and the abuse continued, was there a point where you started to recognize that something wasn't normal?
It took so I knew the reason I knew that it wasn't okay was because it didn't happen in the open. Mm-hmm. It was always I was pulled into a closet during a family party. Or it always happened somewhere secluded from the rest of the family. So I knew that it was a secret. I didn't know why. Mm-hmm. But it didn't really register as something that I didn't want happening until I became interested in girls. Mm-hmm. So I think around 12-ish, when I first actually kissed a girl, mm-hmm. Open mouth kissed a girl.
Right. Wedding kiss is what we used to call it.
It was I realized then that what I had been doing isn't what I was supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And so the next time it occurred, or it started to occur, I said that I wasn't really interested in it, mm-hmm. and it stopped. It wasn't
it wasn't forceful.
It wasn't.
So was there a little bit of, and I don't mean to kind of like hone in on this, but so it wasn't forceful, but nonetheless, at even age 12, you don't have the ability to offer consent to an adult.
Right, yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah. And we were, and they weren't like way older than me. It was, a lot of it was like, I think, a lot more harmless than it sounds when I talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of set me up to not really have healthy sexual boundaries. And
was there shame as well? Like you had done something wrong? Not that you
as
had.
like a man, yeah, because it was another male. So it's like, I don't know. It's hard to remember, because now there's no shame, you
Right.
know?
Well, of course not. You're talking about it openly, right?
Yeah.
And I think I can't count how many women that I've like mentored and worked with who have told me very similar experiences that they had at a young age with siblings and cousins and family members, and having a lot of internalized like shame and guilt, like something was done wrong. And it's like, I don't know where the line is between innocent experimentation versus like abuse, right?
Yeah.
And I think there is some kind of line, but it's hard to say when you're dealing with two kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't think any of it should have happened, you know? I think that it's so weird to say when you hear someone say, I'm glad, someone gets in a car wreck and they lose their leg, and they're like, I'm glad this happened.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say I'm glad that I went through that, because I think the more that, and I'll speak for myself, the more that I go through, the better I am at connecting with other people, because we all just have our own personal experience. Like, I remember being a kid thinking that when I closed my eyes to go to sleep, the whole world went on pause.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I woke up, everything, I didn't know that there was stuff outside of my reality. And so I think the more that I go through, just the better equipped I am to live and share space with other people. And because there was a time where I didn't feel empathy, and I teased kids, and I participated in, I would never say that I was a bully, but I wouldn't stop teasing, from happening until, so after that stopped with my cousin, in 6th grade, when I went into 7th grade, I grew up with just with my mom. So it was just me and my mom, didn't have a dad. And so this teacher that I had in middle school took an interest in me and like started taking me to Red Sox games. And he was my drama teacher, and then he ended up being my baseball coach, and then he ended up being my football and basketball coach. And so he took an interest in me. And so at 12, I finally stopped the stuff with my cousin. And then when I turned 13, he told me that he was gonna get me this Christmas present, this special Christmas present that like he had only done for one person before in his life. And it was this, he was gonna, so he had a friend.
This was the coach?
Yes, and my teacher. So he says that he has a friend that works down in Providence,
Rhode Island.
Yeah, that runs like a massage parlor kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And
big down there.
But before, and so his friend, before he's willing to have these girls work for him in his establishments, he sends them off to friends to get massages, and so they could tell him how it was. And so he said his friend was going to send a girl up from Providence to give me a massage for Christmas. And I was like, hell yeah, man, And so that happened, and
it was probably more than a massage.
yeah, there was oral sex involved.
Right.
But so one of the stipulations was I had to be blindfolded, because if I were to see this girl out in public, I couldn't tell my friends, hey, that's that's the lady that did those things. And I also had to have my hands tied so that I couldn't force her to do anything. And in my mind, I'm like, that makes sense, And
at 13, right? 7th grade.
Yes, 7th grade. And listen, I thought I was a grown man. I thought that I could take care of myself. I thought I could make my own decisions, And so I was like, yeah, let's do this. And at this point, I've only gotten oral sex from boys, like,
Right.
you know? And so I'm like, a
Yeah,
lady?
13-year-old boy, hormones are going.
Yeah.
Also, the person who's suggesting this is somewhat of a father figure to you, right?
Yeah, at that point. So it happens, and it was amazing. And when it happened, though, it was like the woman must have had like fake fingernails on, because I kept feeling them drop on me, and her put them back on, and which I thought was weird, because the only reference I had was my mom had long nails, and they were real. My mom's nails never fell off, so I was like, oh, it's weird. I wonder why the fake nails. But it was whatever. It was amazing. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. 6 months later, offers it again, says I'm going to get paid this time, because I was such a good client. I was like, $500. I'm like, $500 as a 13-year-old kid? Absolutely.
Never occurred to you it was like child prostitution and abuse, right?
No. I thought I was like
Getting
special.
Right.
You know?
Special.
And so the second time it happens, they kissed me, and I couldn't be sure, but I thought I felt stubble. Because so sometimes my grandfather would give me a kiss goodnight, and he had like the sharpest stubble in the world. And so I was like, in my brain, I'm like, no, that's not what I felt. I'm just, same stuff happens, oral sex. But then after that time, I remember chatting with him and saying that like I didn't want to do it anymore, because it was kind of weird. And
something felt wrong.
Yeah. And he became I told him this in class in school, and he got very mad and was punching things. He broke a couple of his knuckles, and out of fear, he was like, make me look bad in front of my friend. And I was like, fine, we could do it one more time. And because I wanted to make sure that blindfold wasn't on right, so I could see who this person was.
Was there also a sense of like wanting to please this father figure in your life and like make sure that he was happy because he had taken an interest in you?
Yes, and to be completely honest, the lifestyle that he was providing me, buying me snowboards, buying me paintball guns.
He was grooming you.
For sure. And if I didn't do so, one of the rules was if I didn't spend the night at his place the day before a baseball game, I couldn't play. And so there were little things that, and I liked my life, how it was. I liked doing things. I liked playing sports. That's all I really did. Right. And so I was like, okay, we'll do it. And so this last time I made sure when he put the blindfold on me, I could see. And so obviously, I'm sure anyone that hears the story would know, I see him come in the room naked with a wig on and with fake nails, and I'm like, okay, I did feel the stubble. I did feel the fake nails. And I didn't do anything. I didn't say, Dace, I see that it's you. Can we stop this? I didn't call for help. I didn't fight. I had to I decided in a moment that I'm going to pretend like I can't see him, and because I know what's going to happen, the same stuff. I know it's going to feel good regardless of who it is. And I'll just get through this, because if I do try and stop this, I don't know what will happen. I do know what will happen if I just keep quiet.
Right.
And but that decision that I made to allow that to happen had long-lasting repercussions in my life that I didn't know. I would have chose differently if I knew that it was going to cause me to question, am I worth anything, to question whether I'm straight or not, because even though I saw it was him, my body reacted as though it was a woman and that I enjoyed it. It was a very strange experience, because I was kind of watching it happen. I didn't really feel what was going on, but I watched it. And it just changed the whole path of my life. I don't think so much what he did to me changed the path of my life. I think the decision that I made to not stand up for myself made me question a lot of things. And granted, I wouldn't have had to make that decision if he didn't put me in that position. I understand that I was victimized, but.
And the truth is we go into this fight or flight mode when we're in a place where it feels like we need to survive, and maybe inherently as a 13-year-old boy you knew to say anything could be
my hands are tied.
dangerous.
I'm 13, probably 70 pounds.
Right.
He's 42, 250-pound heavy-set guy. What could I have done? I don't know. But that caused a lot of depression, and because, you know, so the last time it happened, I was 14, and he was still my teacher and my coach until I was a senior in high school, you know.
So you kept quiet all those years.
Yeah. And it was just those questions about my self-worth and being damaged goods and things like that. That is what actually led me to the Oxycontin. One day, a friend's older brother had back surgery, and I tried some Oxycontin, and all of a sudden, I forgot about what Dace had done, and I forgot that I didn't stand up for myself. And when I went into a room after using Oxycontin, I no longer felt like everyone in the room could tell that I was a sex abuse victim, or that like I used to hook up with my guy cousin. Like I don't know if it was just because I was high, so I didn't care what people thought. But I mean, to this day, I'm convinced that whatever that drug was fixed me.
In the moment.
For years, I no longer wanted to hurt myself.
And that's the funny thing about alcoholism or addiction and trauma. It's like at a certain point, some of our experiences are so severe, right? And obviously there's layers to it, right? And everybody's experience is different. That drug or that substance really ends up being a solution that may very well have like kept you from like offing yourself, right?
It for
in
sure
that
did.
moment.
I can tell you it did, yes.
Yeah, like you may not be standing here if it didn't come into your life at the time it did. And then it gets to a point, right, where we cross this invisible barrier where the thing that is like maybe saving us and helping us to cope with things that we just don't know how to cope with, especially at age 14, 15, 16 years old, right? Yeah. And you have a single mom, no strong father figure, and the one person you had in your life has been your abuser. It's like, what else would you have done? Like therapy wasn't a thing when we were when we were growing up in Massachusetts. Like
to talk about things as a man, I can't speak for women, but for me to go to a man and be like, hey, this happened, or even to go to a woman and say that this happened, that's embarrassing. And again, my ego, like to admit something like that, I wasn't really sure what I would be admitting to, you know? Like,
well, you weren't sure, you were questioning your sexual identity, right? Like,
yeah, in Massachusetts, like that you don't behave like that, man.
No.
And if you do, you don't talk about it.
No.
And it was just this
small town New England, at least when I was growing up. The city's a totally different story with the universities when you're in Boston, but those small little tiny New England townships. Yeah, there's very little
different isn't cool.
No.
Or it wasn't. Maybe it is now.
It wasn't when I was growing up at all. My name was Glynis. That in itself was enough. I wasn't John, Mary, Elizabeth,
and I was
Patrick.
Jackie. I had a girl's name, but that was kind of like edgy and a little cool, you know. But I just I just didn't know what admitting to something like that. To me, it felt like it would be like almost admitting that I had killed someone. Because once you kill someone, even if you reform, you're technically always a murderer. So like, because I had a dick in my mouth, am I like always a cocksucker? You know what I mean? Like, even though I didn't.
That's how you thought that. Yeah, you
like am I like now a gay person, or like am I? Which is fine.
Right.
You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. But at the time, with the form, like with
it was fine for you, but not for me.
Right, and your formative
sports.
values too. Yeah. Exactly. Like.
And I knew that I liked girls, and so like I knew certain things that flew in the face of my feelings. Like intellectually, I knew, just like intellectually, I knew drugs are bad for me.
Right.
But you know, now when I took OxyContin, now when I'm being intimate with a girl, I can close my eyes and relax. So when I first after that stuff happened with the teacher, my first girlfriend in high school, where we actually did some stuff, I'll never forget. You know, the first time oral sex came into play, I remember like stiff arming her away from me, and now
you correlated it with these traumatic
and now
experiences.
She's crying because she's like, "What did I do wrong?" Now I'm crying because I imagined it was the teacher, and I'm crying because now I have to explain to this girl what happened to me and beg her not to tell her parents.
Right.
You know, and like to dump that on I was 16, to dump that on a 16-year-old other person with both parents who had a healthy childhood was
Right.
like, and to beg her not to tell anybody.
To keep your secret.
Yeah. And,
Or really not your secret, his secret.
Yeah.
The truth is it's his secret.
Yes. And so there was just so much but now when I use opiates, none of that came into play. It saved my life until, the physical dependency became a thing. And then I was only using to not be sick. And, it stopped working long before I stopped taking it.
Mm-hmm.
But for a long time, drugs saved my life, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, they did. They never let me down. I mean, they never abandoned me. They never didn't do what they promised they would do.
Mm-hmm.
They were very
They
reliable.
were reliable. Yeah.
The most reliable thing that outside of like the sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the most reliable thing I had in my life.
At what point did you realize that the drugs had turned on you? Like they had been like your safety blanket, right? Your comfort, your protector. And at what point did that shift?
When I realized that it turned on me was when I introduced someone else to it. I got clean for like 40 days or something, and an old childhood friend, a female, had reached out to me from California. I'm still living in Mass. I was living in Lynn at a sober living house.
Lynn, the city of sin. You
And,
never go out the way you came in.
You don't. And she reaches out to me and she confides in me that she had an injury and she's been taking perk 30s and her fiance doesn't know and she wants to get clean and she's going to come back to Massachusetts because the 3rd of July down the Cape is a big thing. Her family has a house down there. She's like, I'm going to be there for like 2 weeks. Will you take me to meetings or like just teach me how to live? And I was like, yeah.
With 40 days sober.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I knew what I was doing. And
Yeah.
so originally, she comes and she has her perks and we're hanging out and she's doing them and I'm not and I'm taking her to meetings.
Were you well intended?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, intentions are a funny thing because if my intention is to show you that I care about you, but because of my child, it's better to use this with a man. So if I have a friend who I want to show I love, there was a time in my life where I thought that meant sexual favors,
Right.
Even though my intention would be to show
love.
you love, a guy might be like, hey, listen, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to cut that out,
Right.
but then I'm going to start to get really mad. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it feels good, but my intention, so yeah, I intended to help her for sure, but eventually it started to look, the look on her face when she used started to look appealing to me. And all my buddies at the meetings were like, this girl's going to take you out. This girl's going to kill you. I'm like, no, I'm special. So I start getting high with her. And she goes back to California to her fiance. And she's like sending me money. And I'm living in my car at this point because I had obviously left the sober living because I was getting high. And she lets me start staying at her family's house, beach house down in the Cape. And I know that if I can somehow introduce her to using opiates the way that I use opiates, that she'll need me and
Support your habit.
yeah, and maybe I'll replace her fiance. I mean, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And so the next time she comes back, I introduce her to using drugs the way I use drugs and could fill her head full of stuff like we're meant to be. This is obviously, we haven't talked in 6 years and before you moved to California, we had a little fling. Like, this is the way it's supposed to be. And
So you go from being the victim to being the one who's victimizing other people
For
in
sure.
a different way.
for sure,
Mhm.
manipulate. So I fill her head full of all this stuff, and she comes back to California, and she's in Santa Monica is where she lived, and she calls me and tells me, well, she's texting me, hey, I think I can't do this. I'm just going to eat my whole prescription, and I'm just going to end it. And I was like, whatever,
Right.
thinking it was just like, she wanted me to answer the phone, but sure, call me. So she says, hey, I just ate my whole script of Klonopins, and I'm just going to keep smoking my pills until I fall asleep. Will you stay on the phone with me? So yeah, sure, I'll stay on the phone with you. Like,
You didn't believe her.
of course not, because I had been, when I was younger, before I had been the guy like, no, you can't break up with me, I'll kill myself. And I had no intention, I was a coward.
Right.
But I stayed on the phone and until she stopped responding, and then the next morning, I was getting high as well on the phone, so I wasn't really sure what was happening. Next morning, my phone rings from her cell phone number. I was like, I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't answer the phone because I didn't have the courage. Got a voicemail from her fiance saying that he just found his fiance dead in the bathtub, and this is the last number she spoke to. do I have any insight on what happened? And he's like, and I obviously know that this isn't the person who it's saved under because I just heard your voicemail. So if you have any decency in you, you'll call me back. If you're a man, call me back. So I called him back. And that was for sure the worst conversation I've ever had with another human being, having to admit things that I wasn't proud of. And, I'll never forget the question of him asking me, like, why couldn't you just leave us alone? Like, why couldn't you just leave us alone? Now she's gone. Like, her mom no longer has a daughter. And that was the first time that I realized that the drugs were not on my side, and that my behavior was affecting other people.
Right. That, like, this idea of intellectually knowing right from wrong, good from bad, being raised with some sense of a moral compass, but acting out of every value and character that we know or that we're raised with, and doing things that we wouldn't typically do, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that there was like some connection between like maybe some like sex addiction and the drug addiction?
Yes. So early on when I was a kid, after that stuff happened with my cousin, every girlfriend I had, I would smother. Like, when I started dating a girl in middle school, I would walk home with her. I would help her with her homework. I'd stay there till 10 p.m., walk home and go to bed, not do my homework. Mm-hmm. My grades suffered. Hers were great. I just didn't know any other way. And my identity was kind of rooted in sexual acts because it had just been happening for so long. And from such a young age, I just didn't know. That was what I thought you do when you care about someone. Mm-hmm. Like, and which,
because that's what you were taught.
Yeah. And which sucks because I'm not the guy who can have a one night stand. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I wish there were, not now, I'm married, but like there was a time where I wish I could just go out and party and sleep with somebody, but
it was like, love me, love me, love me. Don't leave me.
Yeah. And if I'm going to, and I tried it one time and I fall in love, dude. Like I can't, there's like some contract that is signed in my mind and in my heart when I am intimate with somebody. There's some agreement being made that like I'm the one, and like you're not going to do this with other people, and that's not the case with everybody. I think most people don't feel that way. Right. And I think it's a good thing, like as far as monogamy goes, but
I think it's also healthy too for a young person to go through life and have some, like intimate experiences that are fun and like, low key.
Yeah.
And, when
or
you're
maybe
in
a little dangerous.
Right,
but,
right.
But you're both agreeing to that.
Right.
And I just, the whole, I catch feelings, man. Mm-hmm. I don't know any other way. It's like watching a Patriots game without cheering. They just kind of go, you have to, it's just, or liking the Patriots because we're from where we're from. Mm-hmm. When I tell people, I'm from outside of Boston, oh, you like the Red Sox? Of course, it's not an option,
Right.
That's just, you're born there and that's part of it. So in my mind, if you're having sex with me, I must be the most important person in your life. Mm-hmm. Like, and then that leads to.
Not only that, you are going to be the most important person in my life, and I'll push aside all of my values, all of my goals, everything that's important to me, my homework, my job, my family, fill in the blank, because you are the end all be all, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And which I don't know how to properly segue into it, and you might want to take a break first, but like when you get clean or for me, hey man, like, okay, what do I need to do? You need to trust another man. Can't.
Right.
Next, well, no, that's it. You got to like trust a guy and tell him all these things and take suggestions from him. And I'm like, no, like, what else can I do? They're like, no, man, that's what you got to do. And I'm like, but I fucking hate you, man. I hate men.
Right, because you've been hurt and damaged and traumatized.
Like, what do you mean trust a man? Mm-hmm. I know that this guy, if he's being nice to me, either wants drugs from me or sexual things from me. Mm-hmm. There's no way a man could be nice to me just because he wants what's best for me. In my personal experience.
It's not safe.
That's not a thing. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In my personal experience, that just wasn't a reality. It would be like a prostitute thinking that a guy actually wants to have a regular relationship with her. It's just, if you do the same thing for long enough, it just becomes, there's no way that can be true because the last 13 years tells me different. And I believe experience a lot more than I believe someone telling me something. Like when I went to treatment, if someone came in as a person from studying about addiction but wasn't an addict, I couldn't relate to them as much as I could with someone who maybe just like did the KDAC program but was an addict for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like that person just knows what I'm saying more.
They're unique. Yeah, they're uniquely qualified because they have the experience. They speak the same language.
Yeah, and they most likely know what it's like to find an unopened thing of McDonald's pancakes in the trash and feel like
that looks like a good breakfast.
That was one of the best meals I've ever eaten in my entire life, and I've eaten at some really nice restaurants, and like Felix and Funky and Beverly, like in Spain.
Funky.
Yes, but that meal that day I probably hadn't eaten in a couple weeks, and it had an unopened syrup container. Like I'll never forget that meal. And for me to tell that to someone who just like studied this in college, they'd be like, "Oh, that must have been so terrible." And it's like, no, it was actually amazing. It's one of the best
best days of my life.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and so there's there's something about experience
that resonates on a deeper level, and I mean, it's about how our brain works, right? Our brain bases things on experience, and when we are raised with certain experiences as a child, like that is a part of how we see the world. And there's intellectually we might try to convince ourselves otherwise, but it's not until we allow ourselves to have new experiences to prove ourselves wrong, essentially prove these old ideas wrong, that we start to have a whole new perspective, right?
And again, I'm a man.
Yeah.
I'm hard-headed, and I'm
stubborn,
not as smart as most of the women that I know. And that could just be me. It could just be a Jack thing. That might not be a guy thing. But I have a lot of guy friends, and
they're all idiots too.
They make poor decisions. We make poor decisions based on misinformation. I'll speak for myself. I, for a long time, even still, make poor decisions based on being misinformed. Like my first marriage, because I didn't see a healthy marriage. I was just with my mom. From society's view, I thought as long as I go to work every day and make enough money so that my wife doesn't have to work and she can stay home with the kids, and I don't put hands on her and I don't sleep around,
then it's a good marriage.
What more could I do?
Right.
Apparently, that's not it. You still have to tell them that they're beautiful. You still have to take them on date nights. You have to treat your stepkid just as much the same way that you treat your kid. And I didn't do those things. I was ill-equipped and I was misinformed. And I'd come home. I'd work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, and I'd come home, take a shower, eat dinner, and go to bed. And unfortunately, actually, fortunately, our neighbor filled in the gaps because he worked a different shift than me. So he would tell my wife that she was beautiful, and so now and although it hurt me, the marriage ending, I wasn't making her happy, and I took these vows to always care about her and want her to be happy, and so I meant those vows. So I stepped out, so I left, and I accepted the divorce, and have never said a bad word to my son about his mom, and we're still cordial, and we have 50-50 custody. But she deserved to be told that she was beautiful.
We're gonna just have a present partner, right?
Yeah, and misinformation can cause people to make poor decisions. I just didn't know. I had no real life experience on what it was like to be a husband. But I'll tell you what, now, this marriage, there has never been a time that my wife has gotten into a car where I didn't open the door. I never opened a door for a person outside of like buildings. I've never opened the car door for a person in my life until I got married, until I started dating my wife, and I was like, I need to change. What can I change? Well, I could be more attentive. I can do something that I've never done before and open the door. And at first she was like, what are you doing? I can open the door for myself. And I'm like, I know you can. And I'm not saying that you're incapable of that. I would just like to consciously
make an effort to be present and being a loving partner.
Yeah. And at first she was like, this is really weird. And I'm like, I know, it's weird for me too. And sometimes I would forget and be like, no, wait, and walk around, because I hadn't done it growing up. And I believe every day I tell her she's beautiful, because she is. And every woman and every man deserves to be told that they're handsome and that they're useful and that, they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. But I fell short on a lot of that, because I thought when I put that ring on your finger, I thought, like,
that's enough.
I thought that, like, if you needed to be told you're beautiful, look at your hand. Like, I married you. Of course I think you're the most beautiful thing, but that's not the case.
You talked about your first marriage, right?
Yes.
Didn't work out so well. And you're married currently.
I just got married May 17th up in Toronto, Canada.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, tell me about how did you meet your current partner?
There is an app called Hinge.
I met my husband on Bumble. No judgment.
Same. So I went through the divorce, or was going through the divorce, and after about 6 months, my guy friends were like, "Hey, man, you got to, like, talk to some women, because this is kind of crazy," because I, like, needed to spend time with them all the time, because I was so, I was just so, broken and hurt and feeling inadequate and
abandoned.
Yeah, I mean, I even joined a Bible study 5 days a week on Zoom at 7 a.m, because I just needed my mind occupied by not those thoughts of being betrayed, I guess. And so they were like, you need to sign up for some apps, even if you don't go on dates, just like message with women. But because I was really mad at women, I just been hurt by a woman, and I didn't want to take out what I was feeling on the next one, because I had some clean time.
How long had you been sober when you went through your first divorce?
4 years. I had been clean for 4. I think I was on year 5. And
real quick, sorry, I don't mean to stop you, but
no.
4 years sober, but all of this other stuff, right, is manifesting in your first marriage, right?
Yes.
It's unresolved trauma, things that you hadn't done any work on, right?
Yeah.
So leading into, like, before you met your current wife and remarried and started dating again, like, was there any, like, intentional work that you did on yourself before getting into this in order to kind of heal some of the parts that were still, not working?
Yes. So, and you're talking in between the divorce and my new relationship? Yeah. My sponsor suggested that I do a new 4th step, because I had obviously been through the steps, and I hadn't, my divorce and those resentments and all of that pain and certain behaviors weren't on my weren't a part of my 4th step the first time. So he suggested that I do another 4th step. And
what about any therapy?
Yeah, I've been therapy for me is really productive. I'm a better person when I go to therapy, because I tell my friends and usually my spouses the things that I should be telling therapists in hopes that they can...
Trauma dumping.
Yeah. But to me, it's like sharing,
Right.
Because, like, I can't figure it out on my own, and I need to tell somebody, and who am I, so, but there is some stuff that you should really share with a therapist.
Also, I think
Or a sponsor, right?
Sharing our experiences with the people we love and be authentic and genuine is valuable and important, necessary, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, my husband is not a clinician. Like, it just makes him sad when I tell him certain experiences I've had. It hurts him. And that doesn't mean I can't share it with him, but, like, at a certain point, it's like, okay, if I have this thing that's weighing on me that I can't move through, that I can't get past, that I don't know what the solution is or what the best treatment is for this thing. It's like talking to someone who is licensed and experienced can actually help me heal from the thing rather than having it be a reoccurring pattern in my life, right?
Yeah. And so one of the things that yes, I got into therapy. I got into the Bible study situation. I got back into step work. That was another thing. I had really not stepped away, but I had let my program slide because it was like... well, I have a family. I have,
all the things look good on the outside.
Yeah, and it was very easy to find excuses to not go to meetings or do step work. It just was, I have 2 kids. I have a stepdaughter, I have a son, and I have a wife, and I have a job, and I only had all of those things because of the program. But I forget that very quickly, and because I'm selfish. And I'm
what do they call it in Massachusetts? A built-in forgetter.
Yeah, a built-in forgetter for sure. Yeah, but so I had to. One of the things that helped me, that therapy helped me realize, I shouldn't credit therapy. It's actually because I can't prove this to be true. It's more of just in theory type of things. I believe in karma. I believe in a lot of things, but one of the things I believe is that we kind of get what we deserve. And one of the things that helped me get through my divorce and all the pain that I was going through was to understand that I did this to someone else in the past, and they don't get a chance to get remarried. They've moved, they've passed on. So this ain't so bad. I deserve this. I deserve the pain that I'm going through. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. At the time I believed that well, did you think you were going to get off scot-free from all that dirtbaggery from a long time ago, and that, although some people I talked to were like, no, you can't hold on to that. That's not the way it works, Other people were like, wow, good for you. I wouldn't be able to accept that. I would just be mad at this woman that cheated. But
Did you find forgiveness? For yourself and also your ex-partner?
I was told through therapy and through the program that forgiveness is an action, because I thought it was a frame of mind. I forgive you and I'm cool with you and we can be in the same room and I'm not angry. So I was told that forgiveness is an action, and even if I don't forgive this person, start saying it. Start letting them know that you forgive them, even if you don't. And I had practiced, and that's where this, experience comes in. I had practiced that in a sweat lodge. I was told in therapy to write a letter to the man who had hurt me, to write a letter to him, because he killed himself before he went to prison. So he's gone. So I never got to tell him.
So he ended up going.
Yeah.
As a result of you.
11 boys after me.
Oh my
one
gosh.
of them. Yeah.
Wow.
So 2 weeks before trial, he was in a holding cell in Cambridge, Mass, and he ended up taking his own life. So I never got a chance to tell him that what you did wasn't okay. Because I would still go back to him and get money for drugs and stuff and be like, hey man, I need help. I've never told anybody about what happened, and he would give me money. But so in therapy and in treatment and stuff, I was told to write a letter to him and burn it. And so I had one of the guys in treatment with me come out to a fire. I read it out loud so that another human being could hear it, and then I burned it. And it was suggested that I pray for him. And so in these sweat lodges, you lift things up. You pray to ancestors. You pray, and so I started praying for him.
Wow.
And I didn't, and I felt like I was betraying myself a bit. And after the first time I did it in the sweat lodge, afterwards, a couple of the guys were like, what are you doing praying for that dude? We know what he did to you. And I was like, I don't know. I was suggested to do this, and I hate it as much as you. Me saying it is much more uncomfortable than you hearing it, trust me. But I'm just, I'm willing to try whatever. And so after a few sweat lodges and after praying for this man, and I just at some point realized that he was just a sick guy that was acting on misinformation that that probably happened to him when he was young. And I'm not saying that it's okay because of those things. I was just able to find a little
compassion.
Yeah, and a little peace.
Closure.
Yeah,
well, because at a certain point, he's now killed himself. He's not even in prison. He's not on this earth. And so who's suffering now?
Yeah.
Not him.
No, I was allowing myself.
You were suffering.
Yeah.
Right.
Only because I was allowing myself to suffer.
Right.
I didn't know that I had a choice.
Right.
I didn't, and so through that process, I realized okay, if I just go through these actions, eventually my mind and my beliefs will catch up. It's like going to a meeting. Just get your feet, just have your feet get you in a meeting, whatever happens.
Take the
happen.
actions, right?
And so I started,
When did you do that? After the divorce?
Back in 2016 was when I did the stuff in the sweat lodge. But yeah, so now it's been a couple months after through the divorce, and I start telling her like, hey, although I didn't believe it, I was like, what happened is okay. Just because that happened doesn't mean you're a bad person. I forgive you. I wish you would have gone about it differently, but like it's okay, and you deserve love. And whether I believed that or not, I would have rather have told her that like I hope she catches on fire and she's a bad mom, even though she's not. But I just would like to have said those things to hurt her so that I wasn't the only one in pain. I didn't. Only because I went to therapy and talked to other people and didn't just act on my own man instincts like my ego's hurt and I'm hurting, so you should hurt. And going through the actions of telling her that I forgave her eventually made it true. And actually what made it true was the first date with my current wife, which is interesting.
How does your relationship with your current partner look in relation to like how challenging your last relationship was, or how are you showing up differently? And like, how do you see this contract that you talked about of like, you're mine, we're going to be together forever, right? Yeah. Like, how does that present challenges, areas that you've grown?
Just challenges. Most of the challenges that my wife and I have are because of me. Usually my behaviors, my insecurities. Although I've done a lot of work on it and I'm a lot better than I once was, I struggle with insecurities a lot. But I'm very lucky. I made a decision early on, like when I was like, okay, I'm going to date a lady, and I'm not going to take out any of this past stuff on her, and I'm going to be honest about who I am, because a lot of the relationships, not just my last marriage, but a lot of my relationships throughout my life were based on just the way that I look. And the girl would pretend that she liked the music I liked, and would pretend that that they liked the things that I liked because they wanted to be with me because I was handsome. And I can promise you, it's not because I was great in bed. It's not because I had a lot of money. It was simply because of the way that I'm an acceptable looking person, which I'm very thankful for. But that's all it was based on. And I wanted to hear. So like the compliments that my wife will give me are, you're such a good listener, or, I feel so safe when I'm with you. It's not like, God, you're so sexy. That happens, and it's nice.
Well, is there something to, especially based on like all of your childhood experiences, having value outside of just like what you can provide, physically, intimacy, sexuality, like it has to be valuable to have more to offer than just that, right?
Yeah. It's also nice to offer those things as well. I mean,
right.
The more I can bring to the table, the better, and the more secure I feel in my relationship.
There's this idea of being like wounded or broken or wrong, or defective, and I don't really like that idea, because it almost suggests that people can't heal and people can't overcome, wounds and experiences and old ideas and patterns. The idea of falling short suggests that maybe I could do better next time, right? Yeah. That there is a path where I can maybe not do the same thing I've done 100 times before, relapse, respond in a crazy way, or cheat or lie or whatever the situation is. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I'm very lucky in that. So the forgiveness thing about my ex-wife, I go on this first date with my current wife, and we get to chatting, and she's like, oh, what happened? Why are you divorced? And so I told her, 8-month affair with our neighbor, and I go through all the things, and I'm like, why did you get divorced? And she's like, I had an affair. And my brain, part of my brain was like, hate this person, like hate this person.
Right.
But most of me, and the rational healed part of me, was like, let's explore this a little bit. And so I asked her why, like what, help me understand, because I would like to know, because in my mind, my ex-wife was just a bad, mean person that wanted to hurt me. So she went and slept with somebody else,
Right.
Turns out that's not the case.
Right.
And I knew that. But after that first date with Megan, my current wife, the next day I called my ex-wife and I was like, hey, I don't ever want you to think about the stuff that they'd happen. Because she would still, when we would meet for me to get my son, or she'd be like, I'm really sorry about how all this turned out. And after the first date with my current wife, I messaged her and I was like, I'm okay, and I'm so happy that you're happy, and I understand that, like, if you had the tools to do this differently, you probably would have. Like, if you had the courage to come and tell me, like, hey, I'm kind of attracted to somebody else and I want to explore that, I wouldn't have liked it, but like, I let her know that, like, I learned that forgiveness is just letting go of the right to retaliation. Mm-hmm. That's what my understanding of forgiveness is now. And after that first date, I gave that up with my ex-wife. I was like, I know you're a good mom, and I know that you're not a bad wife because you were a good wife up until you weren't. Just like the drugs saved me until they stopped. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't ever want you to feel bad or talk down on yourself because of what happened. Like, it's a wash. You know what I mean? We're both happy now. So it's kind of crazy because I just fundamentally, to think that I would marry someone
who did the same thing that ended your marriage.
If going through the divorce, one of my friends was like, next marriage, you're going to marry somebody who just did what Ashley did. I'd be like, get bent, dude. What do you mean? I'm not that stupid. Why would I do that? But it turns out that, like, that's just
that's what the universe intended for you.
And it's just a mistake. Like, I've cheated. Not now, but like when I was younger, my ego told me, like, make sure other people are still interested too.
Right.
Guy stuff, I think.
Right. Yeah. So do you believe people have the ability to change?
I mean, I don't think you or I would be sitting here. I think the ability for a person to change is like one of the biggest gifts that we're given, because I also think that two things can be true at the same time.
I agree.
If you were to call that woman's family from the story that I told you, if you call her mom and say, hey, what do you think of Jack Doherty? She would say he's the biggest piece of shit that ever walked this planet.
Right.
And she would be right.
Mm-hmm.
If you called my wife and said, hey, what do you think about Jack Doherty? She would say I hope she would say he's a very kind, loving man of integrity. And she would be right. Mm-hmm. I am that person that the mother says I am. I am a monster. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't behave like that anymore. But that doesn't just mean that I'm that in her eyes I'm no longer looked down at. Like, both things are true. I can be a good guy currently, and I also have acted like a monster in the past. And I think that benefits me. Mm-hmm. It's like,
all we have is our experience.
And I would rather have someone on my team who is capable of doing bad things, and they know they can because they have, but chooses not to. I think choosing not to do bad things is more noble than never really having the thought to do bad things.
So if you had one message for all of the people that are out there, people who might be listening, about your experience, about like maybe a message of hope for today of what your life looks like, what would be that message? Suggestion, advice, promise?
So the only promise that I was given was the promise of freedom from active addiction. I wasn't promised material things, but I was promised freedom from active addiction and like a return to sanity. For a long time I didn't believe that I was worth saving. I didn't believe that, like, I thought that I was going to die a junkie, because that was what I was worth, because of the things that I had done, because of the things I had been through, until I realized that all of those things were just things, and it had nothing to do with who I am and the boy that my mom raised. I had to stop taking myself so seriously. I had to understand that, like, I do play a part. I so often, one of the books talks about it, so often I put myself in situations to have my toes stepped on, and then I retaliate at these people like they wronged me, but I put myself in that position. Realizing that I have worth and that other people are capable of having my best interest at heart was such a game changer. Message of hope. I mean, I used to be homeless, eating out of trash cans, and now I live off of Abbott Kinney Boulevard in Venice, and I have a 6-year-old son who thinks that I am the coolest guy. He's in for such a such a sad awakening someday. Yeah. I'm just so blessed, but only because I allowed those blessings in. For a long time, I felt I didn't deserve them, and you just gotta. I just had to stop resisting other people trying to love me because I thought I was unlovable. Like, you wouldn't love me if you really knew me, and if you did love me and you really knew me, then there's something wrong with you, because you shouldn't love something like that. And that's such a sad place to be. I don't want to give. I don't know. I'm not sure of a.
No, I think that's great. I think it's great. I think that's a great message that
everyone's worth saving.
Yeah.
Even Dace, the guy.
Say that again?
Everyone's worth saving. Like, I believe people can change. Do I think the guy that hurt me when I was a kid could have changed? Yeah. Like, I think that people. Do I still hate him? Yeah, somewhere inside of me. But, like, everyone deserves another chance. If I can change, and if you can change from the story that you just told me, like, then who's to say?
Recovery's possible.
Of course it's possible. I think that we change all the time. You asked me earlier, do I think people are capable of changing? Yeah. I have a wife who is faithful to me, and at some point in the past wasn't.
Right.
I don't use drugs every day.
Right. I think that's a strong enough message.
Yeah.
In
Not
itself.
even once a year. I don't. Not on weekends. Like, I don't. Yeah. And it's just crazy. And it's just such a beautiful experience. People, you're worth it. Like, you deserve it just as much as I deserved it, just as much as a guy down on Skid Row who might be doing some things that he's not happy about. He deserves it too. You know? I think.
Yeah.
But who am I?
That's great. All right. With that, I think I want to thank you for coming.
Of course.
And joining us.
Thank you so much.
And taking the time out of your day and sharing so honestly and openly.
Of course. I appreciate it. And this is all a blessing. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course.